Hi guys, welcome back to another PsychE-Learning video. Last week, Hasna and I introduced our new segment called Coffee Talks, where we sit down, drink a cup of coffee, and talk about different issues that you guys recommended us on Instagram. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. And the week before that, I posted a video about incels and the way they think, the way they speak about women, and the way they interact with each other. And it got very mixed reviews, I think, from the incel community. So the like ratio is like pretty 50-50 at the moment. And I got a couple of comments, which I thought it would be interesting to go over today. Some of them were very helpful and very useful, and were just telling me about where to find more information and how to kind of try to get an unbiased perspective. So not just look at the incels who are pretty radical. And then some of them were kind of funny, and they weren't exactly hate comments, but they were interesting. So I'll go over them today. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The first comment I want to go over today says, instead of wasting your time making a video, why don't you simply go out there and have sex with an incel? You want to help, right? So this is interesting to me. His kind of perspective is that I myself should personally go out and help decrease the amount of incels out in the world. So let's say if I wanted to and if I was interested, an appropriate age range for me to probably engage in intercourse with would be 20 to 29, since I'm 22. And within that age range, in the United States, there are approximately 2,181,580 virgins. And not every virgin is an incel, but for argument's sake, let's just consider this number. And the average sexual experience lasts 5 minutes. So let's say I spent 5 minutes with all of these adult virgins just from 20 to 29 in the United States. That would take me 10,907,900 minutes, 181,798 hours, 7,574 days, and it would equal to 20.75 years. And the YouTube videos that I post usually take me around 5 hours to research, film, edit, and then upload. So I think it's probably a better use of my time to make YouTube videos than just trying to, decrease the amount of incels out there in the world. And this is just in the United States. I'm sure there are plenty more in other countries and other age ranges. So I don't really want to spend 20.75 years having sex with incels. So I think maybe I'll just make YouTube videos instead. The rest of the comments we're going to be looking at are a bit more serious than the first one, just because I don't want to say they were giving me advice, because a lot of them came off a bit condescending. Some of them were helpful, the other ones were a bit like being like, oh, like you don't know what you're talking about. So, but the rest of them are more serious than the last one. So the first one we'll be discussing is, somebody said, LOL, I dare you to post a single study or article that disproves the black pill. I can list hundreds of them which prove the black pill is the truth. You guys can't gaslight people anymore. And then I replied and I asked like, hi, I'm not trying to gaslight you. What articles are you talking about? And he said, go to Reddit sub r/blackpillscience, which I thought was kind of interesting, because he dared me to post a study or an article, like a proper research scientific article. And then when I ask for his, he tells me to go to a Reddit thread instead of an actual proper scientific journal, which I think isn't necessarily his fault nor my fault. When I was making the video, I think there is a research gap on incels and the related fields to it, because I think most researchers are focusing on things that have been around for a very long time, and incels are like a relatively new concept. So there is a research gap for both sides. So I understand why people need to turn to Reddit or other forums to kind of talk about things, just because there isn't actual proper scientific studies done by researchers done yet. He also claimed that I was gaslighting him, but I'm not quite sure why he has that perspective about what I did. If you guys don't know what gaslighting means, or if you don't know what black pill means as well, you can look at my last video, or you can just Google it. But gaslighting is manipulation in order to make somebody doubt their reality, to kind of gain an upper hand in the relationship. And it is a form of emotional abuse that kind of a lot of people go through in relationships. And there are 11 signs to tell if you're being gaslit. So the first one is they tell blatant lies. Then the next one, they deny they said something even when you have proof. They use what is near and dear to you for ammunition. They wear you down over time. Their actions do not match their words. They throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. They know confusion weakens people. They project. They try to align people against you. They tell you or others that you are crazy. They tell you everyone else is a liar. So that's kind of how you can tell if you're being gaslit, but I don't think I did any of those, and my intention was not to do any of those. So it just kind of feels like he's throwing around that word without actually really knowing what it means, which I see a lot of people do on social media today, so you need to be a bit more careful when using psychological terms you don't really understand. This next one is a long one, so let's get started. There are 2 ways of responding to extreme sociological pain: self-hate or hate of other. This website reflects the part of the community who chose the latter. You can find the other one on Incel Without Hate or other subreddits like Forever Alone, for example. Concerning the reason why they're like this, you're inversing the chain of causality. Nobody is born hateful, and seeing people like objects. They hate and see people like objects to maintain their sense of self and not become suicidal like the other part of the community. They became like this and start going on these websites after years of rejection. Finally, if you want more reliable sources on what they all believe, type scientific black pill on Google or watch Face and LMS first few videos. Those are more neutral pieces of work. So I actually kind of agree with this guy and what he's saying. I don't think I was trying to say that people are born hateful and then continue to hate women. I do think most incels probably did start off being rejected because they feel insecure or because they feel like it's their personality or something like that, and they have a hard time finding romantic partners, and then that's why they turn to being an incel. I don't think incels are born as an incel, because I don't really believe in black pill and that kind of theory. So I obviously think it's made over years of either trauma or hurt or anger. So I understand where most incels are coming from. I just feel like the terminology and the way things are spoken about, or the lack of respect for women, is just not okay, especially as a woman. Like, I don't like seeing that type of stuff. So I see where this guy is coming from, and I agree with what he's saying. I just don't think it's like an argument against what I was saying, but maybe it came off that way, and I apologize if it did in the other video. But so I agree with this guy. But I do think it's kind of interesting that he said the website I went on, incels.co, is like the hateful part of the community, or where not most incels believe, when it is probably the most highly used one. Incels.co is cited on most pseudo-scientific works, and as I said before, there's a lack of proper scientific research. Obviously, where incels.co is cited is not the most like proper scientific work, but it is still the one that most people credit as being where incels post the most, or they talk the most, or the most incel-y version of themselves. So I feel like it is kind of an accurate representation. I didn't just look at the most popular posts, I looked at the most recent posts as well, and people are posting there multiple times every hour. The next thing I want to talk about are 2 comments together. So the first one is, "This is wrong, plain and simple. An incel is someone, almost always male, who consistently fails to find/attract a partner for long periods of time, years, or in some cases has never been able to attract a partner. That's all. Few incels promote male supremacy or hold misogynistic beliefs. Some do have extremely misogynistic beliefs. However, as with many online discussions, those incels are a tiny minority of extremists who are the most vocal. The vast majority of incels simply struggle to find partners, and that can create a resentment towards women, but it's far from the outright hated and dehumanization such as you described. To be honest, you are looking at posts that are really bizarre though. Like, someone believing women can't feel pain is really stupid even for an incel. I guess it would have been more interesting if you looked at their core beliefs and not extremely misogynistic posts. Reddit Incels Without Hate or Reddit Incel Exit is a good forum about incels that don't have radical thoughts. Just my 2 cents. So I do agree with these guys to a certain extent, just about how maybe there are some incels out there who don't believe the extremist type of stuff that I did speak about in the last video. I have a hard time only really seeing the posts that are positive or not negative, and I did see actually there were some posts that were about them just trying to help each other, which I thought was really sweet, and I'm glad that they found like a camaraderie and a brotherhood with other people who are struggling with the same problems. So that side of the incel community I really respect, and I really do think like good for you to help out others. But on all these forums, a lot of the posts have some sort of sexist ideologies and beliefs, or they use sexist terms when they're speaking about women or other people, which I, as a woman and a feminist, I can't get behind. But I think the community seems about 50-50 from an outsider's perspective. I think I would need to probably speak to an incel one-on-one to get a full view. about everything and to really understand what it's like within the community. Because again, like, I haven't been looking into the incel community for years, while actual incels probably have. This next one, I think actually raises an interesting point and something that's very interesting to discuss. So he said, how do you explain women dating convicted rapists and serial killers like Bundy or Ramirez? Even Joseph Fritzl gets thousands of love letters from women. How does being a convicted rapist does not stop these men from having hundreds of women being crazy about them, yet being weird and misogynistic makes incels non-dateable? So I think this is something that's very interesting to discuss, even just like the psychology behind why some people are interested in serial killers and murderers and rapists. But I think, at least my point of view, is that women who are into these type of men are usually very vulnerable themselves. Either they have a damaged psyche or they have some sort of complex within themselves where they're open to manipulation. And most people who are serial killers or commit these types of atrocities are psycho or sociopaths, and oftentimes these people are very charming and charismatic. While incels, and they say this themselves, I'm not trying to be like mean, but incels themselves will say that they lack charisma and the personality that'll attract other women. So while psycho and sociopaths do terrible things, and it's common knowledge, the fact that they're charming and charismatic helps them out with people who are easily manipulated. And also, these men are trying to charm their victims, so they can either get them into bed, sleep with them, and then kill them, or whatever their prerogative is. And clearly they're highly successful at it, so they're masters at manipulation. So, like, if incels were good at manipulating, then maybe they would have the same success rate, though that is not something I condone or think they should do, but that's just the truth. And incels themselves will say they're kind of clumsy with their approach or how they speak to women because they're insecure and they lack confidence. But these people who lack a moral compass will obviously be very confident because whatever happens, they don't really feel the emotions of being rejected that somebody else would feel. Also, some of these women might have some sort of complex with themselves where they feel like they are undateable or unlovable, so they seek out those who can't really love them back. Or maybe they don't want a physically intimate relationship, and the barrier of jail helps to keep it from becoming intimate, so they seek out relationships like this. And also, most of the women who do engage in relationships or have crushes or are in love with serial killers and rapists and murderers are older. And I am not entirely sure of who incels are usually going for, but at least from what I can tell, most of them seem to be younger, and I think they're going for women their same age. So like in the last video, where there was a clip from the Shy Boys IRL where an incel was talking, he was saying basically he would do anything for like a fat white chick to have sex with him. So the only thing that it seems like he's giving up on is that he's not looking for a skinny girl. He's saying he wants a fat girl, but he's still looking for a white girl. He's probably looking for a girl around his age. So even though he's trying to make it seem like his search parameters are very wide because he insists on talking about how badly he wants a fat girl, he probably doesn't want somebody who's like 75 trying to have sex with him. So I think that's also probably part of it. This next one says, LOL, the fact that you cited the SPLC discredits anything you say. And the SPLC stands for the Southern Poverty Law Center. So I'm going to be very honest. In the last video, I just saw that the SPLC was like an official thing, so I kind of took their word for what they were saying, and it is cited in numerous academic works, so from face value it seemed like a very reliable source, but because of this comment I did look deeper into it, so thank you for pointing that out because I did more research. And the SPLC was founded in 1971 to take on legal cases related to racial injustice, poverty, and the death penalty. So it sounds like it has a very good motive and very good plans to try to help make the world a more equal place, but the fact of the matter is that today it's widened its parameters, I think, a bit too much, and it labels different groups as hate groups when, yes, they might be negative, yes, they might say hateful rhetoric, but not to the point that they need to be put on a list for other people to see. There was in fact one that went and got shot up because somebody checked the hate group list and was like, oh, they're a hate group, I need to go shoot the people there. So it kind of opens up these people to hate, even though that's the entire opposite of what they're supposed to be founded for. So I think SPLC, while what they say might make some sense, I do think that they are kind of doing the opposite of what they're reaching out for, because now they're providing these groups they deem as hate groups you know, they're opening them up to more hatred and anger from other people. So it's just kind of a vicious cycle they've got themselves stuck in. The last comment I want to go over is from an actual incel, so thank you for commenting. And he said, I'm an incel, but I don't use any terms like void or roasty. I don't hate women for choosing what they feel attracted to, but I don't like when girls keep dismissing the fact they have more choices and have a bigger leverage into the sexual market than a guy. That's what really makes me furious. Just live your good sexual life and do what you always do to us. Just leave us alone. Have a nice day. So I agree with parts of this. So I do think women have a larger variety of sexual options, but this stems from living in a patriarchal world because women's bodies are seen as a commodity and something like a bargaining tool. So it's like, oh, this guy wants to take me out on a date just because he wants to have sex with me. And men really desire sex. I think most human beings desire sex, but you know, it's like a thing that men really want to have sex, and women are supposed to protect their bodies from men, and they're supposed to worship their bodies and whatever. That's just how it is in a patriarchal society. So since women's bodies are seen as a commodity and something as like a bargaining tool, they're able to be more selective about who they have sex with, what they do, that type of stuff, while men from birth are raised to think that they need to be big, strong men who provide for women and, you know, are there to have sex with women and enjoy sex, while women are supposed to hide it away and keep their virginity till marriage and that type of stuff. So I agree women do have a wider variety of options, but I think it's because we're in a patriarchal society. So I see where you're coming from, but I think it's also helpful to look into the sociological reasoning behind why this is the case. But I do understand why incels who feel like this guy, who aren't disrespectful towards women, might be kind of annoyed about other people discussing being an incel. I am more than happy if people were to comment on this video as well to kind of lead me in other directions, to see if they can sway my mind or change my opinion or actually show me the truth behind Black Pill or incels being kind to women and other people and not actually being super hateful. I'd be more than happy to have my mind open to that type of stuff. And I would also love to speak to an actual incel if one is open to being interviewed or answering some questions from me. That would be great. And if you are an incel and you'd be open to that, please comment down below and I'll reach out to you. And I really appreciate the support and the likes and even the dislikes. It's nice to have feedback sometimes. And even if you comment something negative or positive, it is helpful to see the stuff you guys say. So as always, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you get the chance, and I'll see you guys next week.